right, it's 12:15. We always start on time, so welcome. My name is Derek Mosley. I'm the director of Marquette Law School's Lubar Center. I want to welcome you to our Get to Know event. And what's nice is we invite people in from the community. If you're new to the Get to Know, we try to invite people in to the Lubar Center and the community. They're doing things that affect your lives here in Milwaukee, but also statewide. And it's also nice to see some of our prior get-to-knows in the audience. I see Jackie Carter's in the audience. If you were here for her, she's director of the port. And Chris Corkery is here from 100 Acre. He's provided you all those salads for those who are here. Got a complimentary salad. But before we get started, I want to just tell you a story real quick. So I can't even remember the exact year. But I was on the board of the YMCA, the Northside YMCA on 12th and North Avenue, and the Y wanted to build a playground. But we had some financial difficulties. The Y went through some financial difficulties, and we couldn't build this playground. And I remember I was at a board meeting, and we're at the board meeting, and someone said that, well, we're going to build a playground, and thanks to Cecelia Gore and the Brewers Community Foundation. And I was like, wow. And I said, but the only catch is, we have to build the playground. They're gonna provide all the materials you need, and there's also gonna be a brewer player. And I remember I'm getting ready to go out to do this, and my daughter's like, where are you going? I'm like, well, I'm going to build a playground with the Brewers. And she started laughing. And if anybody knows me, I'm not handy at all. I can't build anything. I'm the guy who goes to Home Depot and asks if I can buy the display because I don't want to put anything together. True story. And so, but that was Cecelia Gore. So we get there and I show up, and I remember we're sitting there and Ricky Weeks gets out of the car and he's walking towards us. Everybody's like, act like you're doing something. Ricky Weeks is coming. So I grab a hammer and I grab a nail, and Ricky Weeks walks by, and I turn around and I'm like, hey, Ricky Weeks. And he just starts laughing. And I was like, I made Ricky Weeks laugh, but I didn't say anything funny. And then I looked down and I had the hammer backwards. And so I was like, it makes sense. So fast forward about a decade or so, and I belong to St. Sebastian Parish. And if those are familiar with St. Sebastian Parish, my kids went to St. Sebastian School. Our school shares a school with St. Coletta's, which is a school which the individuals who attend the school have intellectual or developmental disabilities. And we were thinking we had to get a playground that was inclusive, because our playground that we had wasn't inclusive for the students of St. Coletta's. And so everybody said, well, we can raise about $15,000. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of money. We can build this playground. I'm like, no, the playground that we want to build costs about $30,000. I'm like, oh, okay. And so I thought about that Ricky Weeks story. And so I picked up the phone, I called Cecelia Gore, and I said, Cecelia, we're trying to build a playground for be inclusive for the students at St. Coletta's. And she's like, well, let me see what I can do. And then I really didn't think much about it. Go to the next board meeting, and they're like, we got $15,000, the other half, to build this playground. I'm like, wow, who did that? That's Cecelia Gore, right? Has anybody here been to a Brewers game? Raise your hands. All right. That's a little test for you. Yeah, that's for you. All right, and those of you who have been to a Brewers game, are you familiar or have you taken part in the 50-50 raffle? Raise your hand. That's the real test, right? Right. Well, if you've taken part in the 50-50 raffle, that's Cecelia Gore. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But I want you to please give a round of applause to our guest for this Get to Know, the Executive Director of the Milwaukee Brewers Community Foundation. Cecelia, thank you.
Thank you.
So let's get started. Born and raised in Milwaukee.
Well, before we start, let me thank you for inviting me and share how proud I am of you and all that you're doing here at Marquette. I'm just pleased to see the work, and I follow you, and so I appreciate you, and I'm happy to be here and see so many friends here that I know and have worked with over many, many years now. They're starting to stack up, but I'm very proud of the partnerships and the people that I've met over time, and so I'm just excited to be here.
Well, thank
and
you.
One other thing.
Yeah.
I saw a post yesterday and it said, folks, the Super Bowl is over. It's baseball season.
So you were born and raised here in Milwaukee.
I was.
I believe
I am.
the Rufus King neighborhood? Mm-hmm. All right. And what did your parents do?
Both of my parents were social workers.
Okay.
So my father was a psychiatric social worker for Milwaukee County, and my mother was actually the director of school social work for MPS.
All right.
Those were their last roles.
Okay. Because there were other things that your father did as well.
Yep, my father was the fire and police commissioner for 14 years through some really challenging times, and my mother was active throughout her career. So they both were professional folks that were committed to this community and wanted to contribute in their own ways.
So what do you remember about growing up in Milwaukee?
Well, early on, I remember that we could stay outside until the street lights came on. You know, I love that. I still picture my little corner on 19th Place and Olive. We were able to freely walk around. I remember red light parties where we would walk from our house all the way down 20th Street to Center from Capitol Drive. And, you know, we were young and we were safe and we were happy.
Yeah, but this is the part, though, Cecelia, that it kind of was strange to me. You were a little rebel rouser as a kid.
No.
So, but there was a guidance counselor that had an effect on your life. Do you remember who that was?
Well, Lee Holloway was my high school counselor. And I have to say, I went to Messmer High School, and we learned a lot from Lee Holloway, who ultimately became the chairman of the county board. And it's funny when I think about that, he was young and we were too, but he was counseling us. So we learned a lot.
So how many jobs? Let's talk about the jobs you had as you were growing up.
So I worked at First Wisconsin, which is now U.S. Bank. I worked at Wisconsin Gas for a long period of time. Had, I think, 6 or 7 jobs at Wisconsin Gas. I worked for the Jane Bradley Pettit Foundation, which was an amazing experience.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But
and then the Brewers.
Did you work in the Pfister?
Oh, you're going way back.
I'm going way back.
Well, actually, it's not way back because when I worked at Wisconsin Gas, I had a part-time job at the Pfister as a switchboard operator and hat check girl. And so a couple times I've shared with Steve Marcus that I'm actually in his family. You might remember he had a restaurant called Celia's, and his mother's name was Celia, but I would tease him and say, "You've named the restaurant after me, you know, take me under your umbrella, put me on the board, and let's work on the family business together."
So Alverno actually plays a pretty big role in your life. Can you explain?
It does. I'm still on Alverno's board, and for you Marquette folks, I love to tell the story about Sister Joelle Reed, who was our beloved president, who often referenced Marquette as Alverno's downtown campus. But I graduated from there in '92, and then 14 years later, I went back and got a master's, and I've been on the board for a long period of time. But it really has been an important institution for me in my life.
And you mentioned the Pettit Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And what drove you to the Pettit Foundation to even apply for that position?
I was working at Wisconsin Gas, and we merged with We Energies. I was in external affairs, and I had a really wonderful friend, Mary Louise Mussolini, who actually did a lot of great work in this community. She's no longer alive, but she encouraged me to apply for the program officer. She was working for the Brico Fund, and that's Mrs. Pettit's daughter's foundation. And the Pettit, they were looking for a staff person to run the foundation, so I did, because I really enjoy community work and connecting with nonprofits. And obviously, Mrs. Pettit was an amazing philanthropist. She had funded almost every nonprofit in this community, built the Bradley Center, the old Bradley Center, alone with all of her money. And so I just thought it was an opportunity I couldn't pass up.
And how long were you there?
10 years.
So you're there for 10 years, and I think is it '09?
Yep.
And in '09, you decided to make a change.
Yep.
Okay. And you applied for the position at the Brewers Community Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's I have to ask about the interview. So when you went into the interviews, did they like ask you about how much you like baseball, or?
Of course.
How'd you respond?
When I applied for the job, and I love the Pettit Foundation, but the market was falling at the time. It was in 2009. So there was a subtle suggestion that I might want to look around and see if there were any other opportunities in case they didn't keep a full-time program officer. And so I was fortunate enough to I had the opportunity to interview for this job. Had 6 interviews with various executives, and then I was finally in a meeting with Mark Attanasio. And we're in the boardroom, and you can see the field, and everything's sparkling and green. And I'm like, all right, I made it this far. How's this gonna work? And then Mark just casually turns and he says, are you a baseball fan? And I'm like, I knew this question was coming. And I said, well, I do understand baseball's role in the history of America and how it fits into our culture. And he said, not a fan. And so then I said, well, I'm a quick study, and really I don't need to be a fan because I understand community and philanthropy, and I'd love to have this opportunity. And he said, you're probably the right person for the job.
Perfect. So tell us, what does the Brewers Community Foundation actually do?
So we are a public charity. We raise money and we give it away. We focus on health, education, recreation, and basic needs. And we generate about $4 million a year. But the fundraising season actually starts tomorrow. When I go to Arizona, I'll be sitting down with each player with a nice little payroll deduction form. And I'll be sharing with them why they should give financially to the Brewers Community Foundation. And I have a colleague, the Vice President of Community Relations, Katina Shaw. We team together. She asks for their time, I ask for their money. And we've been getting 100% participation.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I feel very happy about that. But I think, it's an opportunity for them to give back. It's an opportunity for them to build their brand, learn more about the community, and just be more engaged. So it's all about baseball, but beyond the diamond is important as well.
Yeah, and I find that remarkable about the 100% player participation because, for lack of better words, they're kids.
Yeah,
they're
they
essentially
are.
kids.
They are.
And so you're sitting down, you're talking to them, trying to explain to them about a community that they've never lived in, about people they've never seen, and the fact that you have 100% player involvement is pretty remarkable.
And that's the greatest joy for me. It's like a little gardener planting seeds. You have rich soil, the players, and you're able to share with them what they can do with their support. And we don't just ask them for money, we try to tease out what's important to you. What have been experiences in your life? Do you have someone in your family that's had some kind of issue or they're supportive of something? Did you play Little League? Did you love camping or fishing or whatever those things are? Did you have home insecurity? Because all of our players didn't show up with money. Many of them came from poor backgrounds, so they're more receptive to hearing why and how they can help.
And then you tie them to places in the community that they can make a difference.
Yeah, what we do is we fundraise for Brewers Community Foundation, and then we fund nonprofit organizations that approach us for support.
Now, I don't know if this number is correct, but is it 1.3 million that you gave out as part of the 50-50? Is that this past year?
I don't know what that number is either, but we give away 50% of the the sales. So it probably was about that. We probably sold about $2.6 million in 50/50 raffle tickets last year.
I did my fair share.
Thank you. And I always say everybody's a winner. Whether you won the pot or not, you have an opportunity to contribute to the community.
And
so you're winning.
That, but you brought that to the Brewers.
I did.
So how did this come about? If you could tell that story.
Well, technically it is, I'll call it illegal to... Well, you'll appreciate this.
All right.
Unless you get permission from the state through a raffle license.
Right.
And so many people operate the 50/50 raffle and they don't have a raffle license, so they're not functioning appropriately. And I can tell you there is a state regulator who might come to visit you. So you want to try to have everything in order. But we applied for the raffle license and we got it, $25, and then we were off and running.
That's in 25, this I know, $25 million since 2010, since the raffle. That's pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
That's pretty remarkable.
Overall, we've raised $55 million.
And I want to make sure everybody caught that. Can you say that again? Overall, you've raised?
$55 million.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I feel very proud of that. And all of the money we raise goes back into the community. So the half for the 50/50 goes to the winners. But I feel like that's back in the community as well. I can tell you that the people that have won the 50/50 raffle put a new roof on their house, or they sent their kid to college, or their refrigerator broke down, or we had a couple who paid for their artificial insemination and had a baby and then bought the baby to the ballpark.
I was like, where are we going with this?
Well, we have a 50/50 baby. So we've had some really interesting things that have happened, but all positive.
That's great. Now, this is just, and I don't know if anybody else wanted to know this, but I know I want to know this. So you have an office inside AmFam Field.
Yeah.
Okay. And while I'm at the game, you're working. So do you get to watch the game at all?
I have a television in my office, but I can also go out and walk around and look for you and say hello. Or every game day we have something going on. So we have pregame ceremonies where you might see me on the field with a big check, or we're facilitating somebody who purchased an auction item and they, are doing a first pitch or have some opportunity. We bring in groups so that they can walk the warning track, like you might see parades where there are little leaguers that are walking the warning track, or just a variety of things every single game day, which is 80 games a year.
So,
home games, and then there's
80
away.
Yeah. Do you go to the away games?
No.
Some of them?
Some, but very few.
Do you travel on the plane with the team, or do you?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
Now, I just had to ask, have you been down the slide, Bernie slide?
I have, and I think I have the record for screaming the loudest. For everyone that has gone down that slide, I think the guy who was at the end was like, I don't think we've had anyone who screamed that loud before. But the old slide had a little curve and you feel like you're gonna just fly off, and I really wasn't ready for that. I wanted to stay on the slide and get to the bottom. But I've done it once and I probably will never do it again.
So of all the time that you've been with the Brewers, what's your favorite Brewer memory?
As in game?
Yes.
Or, that's a hard one. My favorite memory is probably when we would have Hank Aaron come to the field. I just thought the world of him, and so it was just an honor to facilitate his visits when he would come. On the field, obviously, if we're going to the playoffs, the excitement, the energy, you just feel it. I remember one of the Dodgers games when we had won before we lost. And, the place was just like shaking with excitement and energy, and so I love that.
So, and you're still close with Billy Aaron, is that correct?
I am.
So talk about that relationship.
So I'm on Chasing the Dream Foundation board, and we meet periodically. The goal is to do positive things for them, primarily in the Atlanta area, but there's also a fund here in Milwaukee that's held at the Greater Milwaukee Foundation. And she's just a lovely woman. I remember visiting their home when he was alive, and she was just the Southern charm, kind, but really smart and strategic and well regarded in Atlanta. So that has been something that has added real value for me to have an opportunity to be exposed to them.
I remember I have that you made happen, and it happens all the time now, but I remember the very first Negro League game.
Oh, yeah.
And there were players, and I remember that was the game I got to meet Buck O'Neil, which he was a character.
He was a character.
He was quite a character.
A little flirty. In his 90s.
In his 90s. But that was just an unbelievable time where we got to meet on the field. We were in the suite, and just the access. How did that come about?
Well, I give the Brewers credit, and every major league team doesn't do this, but they have decided long ago that they would continue to honor the Negro Leagues. And so every year we have identified a couple of the players that we bring back, and we have a field program to just congratulate them on their contributions to baseball. And that's just what we do. We do have some Negro League players here in Milwaukee. Dennis Biddle, which somebody in here just showed me a picture of a ball that he signed. Oh, his ball is jersey, but he has really done a great job of keeping the Negro League memory alive. He has a store at Mayfair.
Legacy.
He's always in the ballpark selling paraphernalia, and he also taps into Brewers Community Foundation, and we provide a small stipend to all of the living Negro League players.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Which is
I did not know that.
Yeah. That's awesome. But it's been a joy to meet them and hear their stories and how much pride they have. And I'm so happy that Major League Baseball has come to the conclusion that it's important to recognize the Negro League's contributions and continue to honor them. And I think they'll do it for the rest of the time.
That's awesome. So your dad was alive when you got this job. Mm-hmm. He unfortunately passed, I think, in 2017.
Yeah.
How did he feel when he heard that you were getting a job with the Brewers?
Well, he was happy I was employed. But before I started with the Brewers, I can't remember who I was working for, but I was on the state's tobacco control board. And I was throwing out a first pitch. And I was able to invite my father to join me, and he was in the dugout and sat next to Cecil Cooper. So I had coup points from him after that for a long time. But he was really happy. My mom is happy. I think they both recognize that it's a great opportunity, and they're proud of me.
And your mom's still alive.
She is.
I believe she's 95?
95, yeah. She lives at East Castle. She has a little dementia. Well, I don't know if it's a little dementia. She has dementia. But she still knows who I am. She still knows who the Brewers are. She wants to know how they're doing. I'm like, Mom, the season hasn't started yet. And she's like, well, how did they do last year then? But she's doing okay. Yeah.
So you said tomorrow you leave, you take a plane to Arizona.
Yep.
And will you be down there for the entire spring training?
No, I leave tomorrow and I come back March 2nd. So my whole life changes when I'm there. I'm at the ballpark at 6:30 in the morning, which is a huge change to be bright and cheerful and hoping to speak with someone about giving a contribution at 6:30 in the morning. As you might guess, they don't really want to talk to me either. But we are positioned right at the clubhouse. And so as they're doing their things, we're like, hey, Yelly, come, talk to me. And he's like, I'll get back to you. But the beautiful thing is, Mark Attanasio addresses the team. and we're invited into the clubhouse. And he tells the guys that for him, the community is one of the most important aspects of his business. And as the principal owner, he hopes that they would take into consideration that we're here hoping to have a conversation about the community. And then he talks about his own experiences with philanthropy and how meaningful it has been, because this is not mandated or required. And so he shares how important it is to him. He highlights that we're there, and he encourages them to come see us, and that is really helpful.
It's really important because when I was preparing for this interview, I actually went to all the Major League Baseball teams' foundations, and they don't mention 100% player participation, which is, I mean, I think that, I mean, let's be serious. So you're going down tomorrow to do this, and it's not, it's got to be difficult at 6:30 in the morning. So you're there 6:30 in the morning, you make your pitch. Yeah. What's the rest of your day like after that?
Well, I'm there until 6:30 to about 2 o'clock. And so we're doing a variety of things. Think about if you have an organization that has asked for an autograph ball, for example, we're getting autographs. We have stacks of cards and pictures and balls and jerseys, and we're, you know, hey, would you mind sitting down with us for 2 hours and doing this autographing? And then they're like, how many do I have? It's like 125, it'll go quick, you know. And then we kind of sit side by side, but you have a great conversation because they're signing. What are you interested in? You know, here, let me do that. Here's another pen. And it does work really well, but there's work to do.
But you do travel with the team on some games.
Yeah, periodically, but generally after 80 games, it's like, see y'all later.
So I talked about the playground piece, and I think it was Build. I think you contracted with a group called Build.
Playworks. Something like that.
So that's something that I remember, but could you explain some other activities that the foundation does that we might not know and maybe do know?
Well, we fund about 200 nonprofits annually.
200?
About 200 annually. Our average gift is around $10,000, some much smaller and a few that are larger. There are projects that we'll do, like annually we'll build a Habitat home. We've done a couple playgrounds, and I laughed when you said that the playground was 30,000 because they're actually around 100,000.
Well, we only needed that piece.
You only needed 15, which is good. But we've done one of those at Maida House. We did one at, I can't think of the organization right now, but we've done several of those. We do general operating support, which I think is really important because it's a flexible fund. And so versus us saying, here's $10,000, we want you to buy, you know, pink jackets. We know that you know what the people you're serving need. And so we will give you that unrestricted grant to do that, to piece together the kind of money that needs to be raised by a nonprofit. We've done some capital campaigns. Yeah. We've done capital campaigns. We've been involved with the Greater Milwaukee Foundation and their major fundraising, Sojourner Family Peace Center when they built that building. So it's broad, but I try to look for things in our community that are making a difference. And it might be something small, like some of you may know Andre Lee Ellis, who gathers 40 kids together every Saturday, young men, to work on the garden. And we might buy food or give money for a stipend or, you know, so small and large.
And I appreciate what you do with, as someone who grew up playing baseball, what you do for those leagues. The Stapleton Beckham League.
Yeah.
What do you do for Beckham? And also, is it Mantia League?
Felix
Mantia's League. Tell me what you do for those.
So we identified 3 Central City leagues that we pour into in ways differently than just a small grant. For Beckham Stapleton, RBI, and Felix Mantia, We provide all of the uniforms. So the jersey, the pants, the belts, the cleats, everything so that they can be competitive with other leagues throughout the city. If they do well, we might provide a small grant so that they can travel. We make a contribution for the fields. We've partnered with other organizations for things like at Beckham American Family built a dugout. And we put in scoreboards. So we, just try to serve where it makes sense.
And that league was founded
by
former
Mr.
Negro League
Beckham.
player, yes.
Who's a wonderful and committed 90-some-year-old man who I'm sure one of the most challenging things for him is that he can't be out there every single day to help those kids with baseball. He has just been a true gem in our community.
For sure. And what about the players who go out to different locations? Are you responsible for that as well, or is that through someone else?
Actually, Katina Shaw, our Vice President of Community Relations, is the liaison between the players and their families and the community. As you might guess, with the number of games we have, we don't have our players out in the community that much, but they would like to do it, and when we have an opportunity, they'll do a school visit, or they'll help with the playground build, or they might do a meet and greet. We try to have a couple of events at the ballpark. So the last, I think, 3 years, we've done Build-A-Bear, where we bring groups into the ballpark and we ask the players to take a couple hours and build bears with the kids, and it's so cute. They have this whole ritual where they put the heart in the bear and then they sew it up, and they have a little statement about how important the bear is for the kid, and you got this big guy going, put the heart in, It's just really cute, but they love that. They help build bikes, but they just don't have the time because there's so many games, or else they would do a lot more.
I remember an event that you were a part of, and it was I was part of a group with the Milwaukee Fatherhood Initiative.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's a good one.
it was fantastic. And it was an
We're
event.
working on something again this year.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right. Well,
Yeah.
just for those who didn't know, it brought dads and their children together, and they said, we're just going to go to a Brewer game, and we're going to go down to the stadium. And when we get to the stadium, and they're like, we're going to get on this bus. And we get on the bus, and then we go to the airport.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're going to the game in St. Louis. And we're like, what?
Yeah.
And all these kids' eyes were big. And my kids were like, and we got on the plane, and we flew to the game, and we got to, I remember once again, Ricky Weeks came out, and we got to meet with Ricky Weeks, and Bob Euchre came out and talked to everybody, and then had tickets to the game. The game was over, and flew us back, and nobody knew. It was just like, we're gonna go, and just that effect you had. I run into guys today where I'll just be, or here's a classic example. I was in court in my prior life as a judge, and someone, one of the individuals in front of me was like, I flew to St. Louis with you. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, me, you, your daughter, my daughter, we flew to St. Louis. Like, oh, people talk about that all the time. So the effect
Did
that
you give
have,
him a break on his case?
Of course.
Character had been built already,
It had
so
built
I'm sure.
But I think that was one of the reasons why I was probably invited, right? It was an opportunity for me to sit on the plane with other dads.
Yeah.
I was a judge, and we got to just talk,
Yeah.
just be men
Yeah.
with our kids.
One year we took some people to the Negro League Museum in Kansas, and if you ever get a chance to do that, it is an amazing museum. It tells the history of the Negro Leagues, and it's just fascinating to see what they've been able to put together. And now it has gotten additional attention, so it will grow and become what I think is a world-class museum that will feature the Negro Leagues. But this year, we are going to identify kids and take them to DC.
Oh, wow.
And we're gonna go to the African American Museum there. And we're gonna speed walk through, unfortunately, but we're gonna see as much as we can, and then we're gonna take them to a Washington Nationals game, and then we're gonna come right back. So I'm excited for that. Yeah, that'll be a good thing.
One of the reasons why I wanted you to be here for this event is because I have seen firsthand all the things that the Brewers Community Foundation does. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody else got a chance to see, because it has a lot to do with you as well, Cecelia. You do so much in the community, but you're not out there saying, look what I did, right? And so I wanted to give you your flowers while you were here.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
So I appreciate what you do. But I know another thing that's really important to you is the Greater Milwaukee Foundation. And some of you might have seen in the newspaper just this past week that Cecelia was a co-chair of a group, an initiative that was being launched by the Greater Milwaukee Foundation, the Greater Together Initiative. Could you describe exactly what the Greater Together Initiative is all about?
Well, it was a campaign, and we had 2 GMF representatives right here in front. But first I would say that Greater Milwaukee Foundation is our community foundation. And it's been around for 100 and...
Since 1915.
Yeah,
for... I don't do math in public.
Right. For many, many years. And it has just been probably a quiet organization that has provided an opportunity for people to realize their philanthropic desires by opening funds and, giving money away to things that they felt were important. This campaign was launched 7 years ago, but we started shifting our efforts to be known as community leaders and to engage in work that really impacted systems and people and their lives in ways that would move the needle on many of the challenges that folks face. So the foundation hasn't changed. People can open their funds and they can do whatever it is that they are interested in funding with their own money, but they also can join the Greater Milwaukee Foundation and the staff in some of the things that we've identified as critical issues like housing, early childhood education, impact investing. There's a new...
Social determinants of health.
Yes, yeah. So partnerships with important organizations like the Medical College.
The why. I don't really know this guy, just went through the orientation.
And this is a new board member right here, so.
Thanks to Cecelia.
And I'm passing the baton because I've been on the board for 10 years, so I'll be there for 1 more year, and then it's going to be all on your show.
Appreciate that.
But we were able to raise $726 million, which is
but let's tell
a
the
nice
story.
Chunk of change.
So it's important to tell the story. So when it was first rolled out, it was 400 million.
Yep.
But then you said, I think we could get to 700 million.
No. I'm the one who tilted my head like, we're at 4, why would we want to do that? But Linda Mellows, who many of you probably know is just an amazing community leader. She's been around for a long time. She's raised significant dollars throughout this community. Peter Bruce, who was an executive at Northwestern Mutual, and Dave Kundert. Those are the co-chairs of the campaign. And when we started, we really did get to 400 million rather quickly. And Linda Mellows said, well, absolutely, we're not stopping this campaign. We need to revise the goal. Obviously, there's a lot of generosity. People understood and were appreciative of the fact that the GMF had decided to center racial equity and inclusion and to look at these critical issues and engage the broader community in identifying solutions versus saying, this is what we'll do. They really, I think, did an outstanding job of bringing many, many people to the table over a long period of time and talking about what are the issues, what are the challenges, how can we solve those issues. Jackie Hurd Barber is in the audience. She's a past president of the board who was pretty tough, actually. She would not let us move from what it is we were trying to achieve. And I give Jackie credit for that. I think she was an outstanding leader. And we really we have a great board. Ellen Gilligan is leader of the PAC in her role as president and CEO. We have fine staff that really understand the community. They're not trying to develop the strategy, they're trying to develop partnerships and relationships so that we can all work greater together to come up with something that will make a real difference. And so this money will take the foundation in perpetuity, actually. Funds, some of the money is held in funds for endowment purposes. Some of the money will go directly to the foundation to address immediate needs. There's a portion of the money that will be available if there's a crisis. So if you recall long ago when we had COVID, the Community Foundation was able to, jump into action and really provide dollars. When there was civil unrest, one of the things that I appreciated was the foundation already had relationships with people. How can we do some things to make a difference immediately? And generally, if you want to do something, you need some money. And so this campaign, I think, has done and will continue to do an effective job on behalf of our community. And there are so many generous people who understand that if we work together, we'll make a difference.
And I think, Jackie and yourself, one of the legacies, so I just went through the board orientation, and one of the legacies are the new funders that the Greater Milwaukee Foundation, and I credit both of you for that because you made it a number one mission is to go after people that typically didn't see themselves as philanthropists.
Yeah, so we're all philanthropists, we can all give. But the Greater Milwaukee Foundation did not have a significant number of donors of color. So in the campaign, we identified a goal of asking or trying to attract 50 new donors of color. And when I say a donor, it's not that you just write a check. This would be somebody who would open a fund or leave a legacy or a significant contribution to take their resources and leave them with this organization on behalf of the community. So for example, my husband and I created a legacy fund. And I have to tell you, I've been married for 14 years. And this was the first time that the two of us really kind of were like, no, I want to do this. Well, no, I'm thinking this, so we had to work through that and find kind of a common ground about what we want to do when we're not here. And we found it, and we were able to create a legacy fund through the campaign, which I'm very proud of, and he is too.
That's great. And so you talked about this collaboration. This collaboration, you can physically see it in the form of the Thrive On initiative. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
So Thrive On is, how many people remember the old Gimbel Schuster's on King Drive? It was a building that basically was sided and was not attractive. But the building underneath that siding is a historic gem. And so the campaign has been able to fund the, what should I call it, the recreation of the beauty of this building. Greater Milwaukee Foundation will have their home there. We'll have Versity, the blood center, will be housed there. Maleka Early Childhood will be there. It's Milwaukee Works. And the Medical College of Wisconsin, of course, they're one of the partners. They'll have housing there. I think there's 90 units of housing, but it's just an outstanding way to, one, revive a historic building, two, activate something that is high quality on that block, three, provide a home for the Greater Milwaukee Foundation and others, and really demonstrate to the community the quality that it deserves as we move forward trying to make a difference.
So let me ask you, what gives you hope? Hope for the future, not only of the Community Foundation, but here for all of us here in the city of Milwaukee.
Well, just looking out at this audience as a starting place, I think that this is a really generous community. I feel that there are countless people that really do want to make a difference. I hate we're in this current ball of confusion, I will say that, but I think that we'll work our way out of that. As a lifelong Milwaukeean, to see the kind of development in this community and where we are now, all of the opportunities that are presenting themselves, how people are feeling about this community. I don't hear a lot of negativity anymore about who we are. We're starting to take pride in our community. So that gives me hope. Obviously, we have a lot of challenges, but I hope that we are smart enough to use our common sense to roll our sleeves up and continue to do what's best for all of us, because everyone's not in a great place. So we have to figure out how we engage everyone and create opportunities. But I do feel like there's enough energy and commitment where we can chip away at some of those challenges and get where I think we all want to go.
All right, love it. So at this time, I'm going to open it up for any questions. Anyone have any questions for Cecelia and the Brewers Community Foundation? We're going to bring a mic to you. Hold on one sec.
Thank you. Two-part question. Number one, in what year was the Brewers Community Foundation established? And number two, in your 15 years with the foundation and talking with all the players, do you have a favorite player or players?
Okay. So the ball club had a charitable arm. It was Brewers Charities. When I started in 2009, we rebranded Brewers Charities and we became Brewers Community Foundation. So we created our new mission, our focus areas of interest, and our strategy to move forward and raise money and partner with organizations. So I always say it started when I started. One of the players that I always point to is Ryan Braun. Ryan had a 10-year, $100 million contract, and he decided that he was going to make his 10-year commitment up front. And so he made the same financial contribution every year, $100,000. He identified 4 organizations that he wanted to fund. Habitat, he wanted to do 15 to 20 scholarships for kids that were accessing higher education. He wanted to fund the Wisconsin AIDS Fund and Sharp Literacy. And what I appreciated about that, and he didn't just have those organizations, he wanted to know where he could have an impact and who he could connect with. And he stuck with it throughout his entire career. Not only did he give the money, but he met with the kids, he went to visit the organizations, he attended the builds for Habitat, and really just enjoyed the experience. When he left, I kind of needled him a little bit, and I say, you should continue this, Ryan. And he said he would, and when he came back, he had his check, and he said, I want to do something again. So, I give him a lot of credit for that, and I use that as an example for other players because, just made sense. And now that he's retired, he's gone back to California, but he's still connected with scholarships, Habitat. He funds California Strong. So he has a philanthropic inclination. And so that's what we want for the players. I love all the players, actually. They all have their little quirks and interesting ways about, the way they go about their day. But I always love seeing Willie Adames. He's delightful. He's got a great personality. I'm so happy that Ricky Weeks is back. He is our associate manager now, and I think he's going to do a phenomenal job, and he's very interested in the community. His family has a baseball legacy. So his father, his brothers, his sister was an athlete. So they're very much interested in youth and recreation and baseball. So I'm looking forward to working with him again. What was your second question?
I think you got him.
Oh, did I get him?
Both.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
Cecelia, it may look on the surface like you have a pretty easy job raising money because you got 30,000 people in the stands, but during COVID, there was nobody there. How did you raise money then?
We actually were able to raise money during COVID. Our office shut down. We had employees furloughed. I was able to go into the office every day. Aren't I fortunate? But we hosted a virtual 5K. We communicated with fans about the fact that there was still community needs. So we sent out emails and, just made the same ask that we were making. Our investors gave contributions differently during that period of time, but we were able to continue to function because I do think people believe it's important.
Hi, I have a question for you. I'm trying to hold back the tears because I know the impact that you make, and you see the needs and the distresses that are facing our community on a daily basis. How do you keep going and say, I know somehow we, because some people do things and they don't see a way out. They just keep saying, we're just digging this hole. But you're so optimistic. You make such an impact. And when everybody sees you, they know it's like you're all in, with it all. What keeps you motivated and going despite of the need, the great need that we have and the disenfranchised things that we have going on? What keeps you motivated?
People like you. You can hear in her voice, Millie. We have countless people throughout this community that roll up their sleeves every single day to work with people. I'm looking at June Perry, who had a nonprofit decades ago where she had identified critical issues and worked with young women and their families, young girls, and made a difference. Sandy's in the audience. We got Rose Spang, who just was taking money from everyone to do important stuff. So,
Rose was shaking me by the ankles.
So, this community is filled with people that want to make a difference. And I think that despite the challenges that we have, we know that people are being served, people are being educated. Sometimes the narrative we hear isn't the true narrative. Some of it is true, some of it isn't, but I think that, folks are being educated, people are accessing scholarships, houses are being built. There's a lot going on. The challenges that we have are significant, but we all have an opportunity to do as much as we can to make a difference. And when I talk to younger people, younger than you all that are in here today, I think it's discouraging because they want a solution. But I believe that this, fortunately or unfortunately, is our life's work. We are going to continue to have to chip away and just keep working to make a difference. We'll have successes, but there'll be other challenges. And we just have to continue to do the work.
I believe a nun taught you that.
Yes, as a matter of fact. I remember, I started was at the Pettit Foundation, I think. And there was a nun who, she took my hand And she was like, I bet you really feel good about yourself, don't you? And I, and I was like, well, I'm excited. It was, the Pettit Foundation, we had like $50 million. And she said, just know you're not gonna solve anything, but it's your responsibility to keep working hard to make a difference. And she squeezed my hand. And I was like, I received that. And it's true, it's our responsibility to keep trying to make a difference. You have a good memory.
Do my due diligence. One more.
So as you start up at 6:30 in the morning and eventually you get 100%, I guess everybody contributing, can you give us some idea what is a typical contribution that comes off of the payroll or average or any kind of a figure actually?
It depends on the year. Some years we'll get a couple $100,000 gifts from some of the guys that are making a lot of money. Some years we'll get $500. I tell them they can give whatever they want, but I want them to give something. And we're not the only group that they give to. I mean, they have lives and people that are pulling on them one way or another. But I always say, just make a contribution to the foundation. The last couple of years, our Latino players have decided that they want to pool their money. So they pooled their money and then they challenged me. They said, we hear you giving is important. So what we want to do is we want to pool our money and we want you to match it. And then we want to give scholarships to Latino kids that are at MATC. I'm like, that's a great idea. And so we've been able to do that, and Freddie Peralta has led that. And I don't speak Spanish, but he does, and he's like, get over here, we're doing this. I'm like, get it, Freddie, get that money. And so we have a good time with it too, but it just depends on the interest. And then, throughout the season, I go down into the dugout to see if anyone wants to do more, or provide an opportunity, or they might, have a really heartwarming experience. Many of them will go and visit a hospital, or they'll meet somebody on the field and they'll ask if they can, do a little something else. His name went right out of my head, but one of our players was really interested in film, Axford, and he was just fascinated with the film festival. And so he started funding them, and I think he's still giving money today to the film festival because he was in film, but obviously his career was in baseball, so he couldn't do everything that he wanted to do. But he thought that was just best thing since sliced bread. So I always tell him, did you give a gift? And he's like, yeah, I'm still doing it. I'm like, good, good.
Any other questions for Cecelia? There she is. You can just yell it.
So Cecelia, you do so much great work in the Milwaukee community. You lived in Lucas King, I lived there now. You went to Mesmer, I did too.
All right.
She's married. First of all.
There you go.
But my question to you is, what does Cecelia do for fun? What does she like to do when she's not working, not doing community work? What is a great evening or a great weekend that Cecelia would like to do?
I go to galas and nonprofit organizations. There's a lot of galas in this town.
There's a ton of galas.
That you can enjoy and have fun. But I mean, I like to get together with friends. I had a group of friends and we had a spa day at the Well Spa and just hung out and relaxed. And I like to eat out, hang out with my husband. I like to travel, so that's fun. We just had a great trip to New York. My husband runs 10 Chimneys, which is a theater organization, and he hosted a Theater Insiders reception at the U Club in New York. So that was the time when I could just be Mrs. Bryant and show up and, just kind of enjoy everything that he was doing. But I do have a lot of fun.
All right, we're at our time. Could you please?
Got one lady who's had her hand up a couple times.
Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry.
Say, It was on purpose. So, hi, my name is Solana Patterson Ramos. I'm actually a new ED for Milwaukee Food Council. And my question is actually, I'm new to philanthropy. Basically, I have to be within it. I'm not new to donating and nonprofits and stuff. I've been around it for a minute, but navigating the philanthropy world is definitely, in this way, is definitely new to me. I'm gonna hit my 1 year in March. So do you have any tips on navigating philanthropy or getting into philanthropy or anything around that, as just any tips, really?
Yeah. Well, one tip I would give you is that don't fear making the ask, because you're actually providing an opportunity for people to give. And so feel free to make the ask. You may not get what you're asking for, but you're providing that opportunity. I would also look for organizations that are in this philanthropic sector and try to connect with them. Like we have an association of fundraisers, fundraising professionals. You could connect with many other nonprofit peers. I know that there are groups of fund development people that get together and talk about strategies, and I'd be happy to chat with you as well.
All right, can we give a round of applause to our guests before you go? Oh, you got to stand it. Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. I appreciate you coming. We have more programming. If you're not on the email list, please join our email list. For those of you attending the Heritage Dinner this Sunday, we'll see you on Sunday. And for those of you who got into the Blacks in History lecture I'm giving at the end of the month, we'll see you at the end of the month.
Thank you for your social posts, too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Those are good.